And so what were dogs being selected for? Well, unless you're showing dogs, dogs were selected for the kind of work they were capable of doing, like sheepdogs are great herders, this kind of thing. But when people essentially designed, bred up and crossbred to get the English Bulldog or the Old English Bulldog, which doesn't have as much of an underbite. So I had an Old English Bulldog. So whereas the English Bulldog is elbows out, so inward rotation, the thing we're all supposed to not do, and underbite, the Old English Bulldog looks like this.
It looks more like a pit bull.
Looks more like a pit bull. And they were originally used for bull baiting, for grabbing onto the nose of the bull, getting the bull super aggressive, and then being able to let go and get called off and coming back to their protector. And then basically then it was to rile up the bull, right, for bullfighting. So you can still find some of this stuff online. You can find some old descriptions, in some cases even some old videos. But of course now bull baiting with dogs is not allowed, right? Dog fighting everybody looks down on. But then if you start asking about the toy breeds, what were the toy breeds, quote unquote, designed for or bred for? They were basically designed to sit next to you. Some of them will seek out, like the terrier breeds will find vermin, right? They'll go find rats. They're really good ratters, actually.
Yeah, Jack Russells are great.
Jack Russells are great ratters. The West Highland Terriers, the Westies, the Cairn Terriers, they're really great hunters for little things, right? And the amazing thing is that when you start looking at the different breeds, it was basically humans selecting on the basis of mostly behavior and phenotype, shape, and thinking, oh, like I want a smaller dog that will just sit near me, or I want a small dog that will like kill rats and sit near me. No, I want a big dog that's going to guard. So you start breeding for pain tolerance. You start breeding for loyalty and aggression. And a guy that I think was on your podcast a long time ago, Sam Sheridan.
Yeah.
Yeah. In A Fighter's Heart, there's a great chapter where he talks about, I think it's dog fighting in the Philippines. And he talks about how brutal that sport is, which indeed it is. But he talks about the love between the owner and the dog can predict, and of course the dog and the owner, it's reciprocal, one presumes, that the strength of that relationship predicts how hard the dog will fight for the owner. And he uses this as kind of a parallel construction for why, and you tell me if this is true or not, that many of the fatalities in boxing were the consequence of, sure, 15-round as opposed to 12-round fights, but also when the corner man or the coach was the parent. And so it gets into this very complicated psychology. I actually think that's a really terrific book because I think it speaks to a lot of really interesting aspects of bonding between humans, bonding in that case between animals and humans. Of course, dogfighting, like, I don't know if there are many things that people look down upon as much as they look down upon dogfighting, but he speaks to the relationship between the dog and the owner as a loving one, which was super surprising to me. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but I don't know, maybe it's possible to find that chart. I don't want to send you on a ridiculous expedition, but if you just say sort of genes, that's a simple one. Okay. This one, the one I'm thinking about is a vertical one that was in Science Magazine or Scientific American. But it's wild. Again, I don't want to send you on an expedition that has us paused, but
it's still kind of the same thing.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
No worries. But it's just, we get a rough understanding of it all.
Yeah, so now when I see like a collie, like I see a collie down there, I think long snout, so probably has a better nose than a Mastiff breed. You can ask an owner, how good is their vision? Are they a sight hound or a scent hound? And of course they're both. But some dogs, like I'm really interested now, in part because of you and Cam Haynes and others, about dogs that hunt or go on hunts. And like the coonhound breeds are amazing.
Yeah,
and I've always wanted a red-bone coonhound.
Their ears waft up smell. That's why
I
they're
didn't
so
know
long.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the reason why they have those long floppy ears is as they're running, their ears are wafting up smell, and it gives them a better sense of the chase.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I read this incredible description of why dog scent and sense of smell is so much better than ours. There's a guy named Noam Sobel who's been on my podcast. He's over in Israel, who claims that human olfaction is just as good as dog olfaction. But how do they outdo us? The frequency of sniffs, and this is really cool. You know those little notches on the side of the nose? Like our nostrils look more or less symmetric. They have those little notches. They create little vortices for the dog so that the scents stick around. They're actually getting longer exposure to a scent. So when they're getting something like 10 or 20x the exposure to the scent in the olfactory bulb. and are able to assess both directionality. They can do right nostril, left nostril. They can sense odor plumes to steer in one direction or another. But Noam has done these crazy experiments when he was back at Berkeley, where he had people's hands mitted, eyes covered, so they can't sense touch, they can't see, everything's covered, and they can follow a scent of chocolate buried 7 inches below the ground.
What?
Yes,
People
and you can see this. This you can find if you say tracking. Sorry, Jamie, my goal wasn't to come here and send you on these.
These people have a nose like Ari Shafir?
Oh boy.
Or Adrian Brody?
Oh my. If you say kind of Berkeley chocolate tracking Sobel or something like that, it should come up. So he would do these aerial views of these people tracking these scents on the ground, and it turns out people are really good at this. They can track a scent. Yeah, and if
Sniffers show that humans can track scents and that 2 nostrils are better than 1. Okay.
So if you go images, I think you'll
Chocolate
probably
scent through the grass.
Yeah, if you go images, and then I'll lay off the
They will
Google.
track scents.
So if you go to images, damn it, and you just say Berkeley, just say, there it is. Right. So they compared the tracking of a scent hound, of a bloodhound, to human tracking of a scent buried. In the case of the bloodhound, it wasn't buried.
So that person, what do they have, a mask on?
Yeah, they got a mask on. Their hands are covered with thick gloves. They can only use the only thing exposed are their nostrils. But that line, that yellow line, is not a line with a bunch of chocolate on it. It's buried below the surface. I always thought it was above. And then when I talked to Noam, he said, no, they buried the chocolate scent, and people were able to track it like a hunting dog tracks
Well,
a
how did they
pheasant.
bury it if it's grass?
I think they cut a trench and then they covered it up.
Oh. Wow.
So he insists that this thing that you see in all the textbooks, which is that humans have, like 1/1000th or something of the number of olfactory receptors, that's total bullshit.
Really?
Total bullshit. And in fact, our friend, who by the way wanted me to say hello, Rick Rubin, turned to a good friend of mine who's the chair of neurosurgery of a major medical school department, not Stanford, I promise, and said, what percentage of the things in medical textbooks, okay, this is Rick asking this chair of neurosurgery, okay,
Yeah.
what percentage of things that you find in medical textbooks, basic and advanced, do you think are false based on your understanding of what we actually know now compared to when the textbooks were written? And he said 50%. And then Rick said, and then Rick said, I know, I was wide-eyed too. And then Rick said, and what is the extent of impact on treatment of patients modern day? And his answer was one word: incalculable.
Oh my God. 50%.
50%.